5 minutes.
And I will just say, as a representative of New York City, and a former prosecutor in New York, I resent and object to the insinuation from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that a jury of 12 New Yorkers cannot issue a fair and impartial verdict. And I'm sure that if I said a jury in Wisconsin could not issue a fair and impartial verdict because a defendant was a Democrat, you would object too. And you should, because it's baseless. All of these accusations about lawfare that we hear over and over and over again have no evidence to support it. You say the judge in that trial was politically motivated. Why? You say the judge was motivated? Is it because his daughter works for a digital fundraising firm, that all of a sudden that's politically motivated? That the jury, you can't get a fair trial now in New York? Give me a break. Mr. Terwilliger, did you read the search warrant for Mar-a-Lago?
I might have read parts of it. I don't know that I read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And you spent 15 years in the Justice Department as a prosecutor. I spent 10. I left 7 years ago. I hear you say that in the last 10 or 15 years, it's been completely politicized. I have no idea what you're talking about. When I was there, I didn't, just like you, I had no idea the political leanings of my colleagues, of the FBI agents I worked with. So I appreciate your accusations. Maybe after my 5 minutes, since I don't have time, I'd love to hear why you think that all of a sudden, 15 years ago, the Department of Justice changed. But if you read that search warrant and you were a deputy attorney general and you were asked to review that, would you say that that did not have probable cause?
I would assume, without my having read it, that a magistrate signed it and determined that there was probable cause. But I don't think
that's obvious. I'm asking you.
That's not either here or there.
Well, it is. See, this is why it is, Mr. Terwilliger, because this is the accusations and allegations from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, that the search of Mar-a-Lago for classified documents after Donald Trump repeatedly and persistently obstructed justice, obstructed an investigation, held on to classified documents, lied about it, told his lawyer to lie about it, that all of a sudden that search warrant is unprecedented and must be lawfare and politically motivated. Wrong. I don't have a question for you right now, Mr. Terwilliger, but I will, because I want to know, and I want to focus on the here and now. I want to focus on the last 6 weeks. You were a deputy attorney general, correct, Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
And it was under the George H.W. Bush administration. You spent 15 years. You may be Republican now, or were then. I'm sure it had no impact on the job you did. You're here as a Republican called witness. Let me ask you something. As Deputy Attorney General, did you ever appear yourself in court because no one underneath you would actually appear in court to represent the Department of Justice?
I don't recall having to do that, but I would have if I had to.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but you never did that. Have you ever heard of any Deputy Attorney General doing that? Before the last 3 weeks?
I actually do have some recollection of that, but it's not sufficiently clear for me to be able to give you
fair enough.
Probably
maybe
not.
You're right. It was quite remarkable that the acting Deputy Attorney General, Emile Beauvais, had to appear in the Southern District of New York himself as the Deputy Attorney General because 7 prosecutors underneath him resigned rather than defend a plea agreement that he put in writing was not based on the facts, evidence, or the law. Mr. Terwilliger, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the only job that the Department of Justice has is to follow the facts, evidence, and the law. Is that right?
I would agree with that, but I'd also tell
okay, so
I would also
I gotta
say,
cut off,
sir,
Mr.
that
Terwilliger, I didn't ask you another
US
question.
attorneys have a duty
the other
to
problem
follow their
we
orders.
have here is the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, I don't have enough time to get into him, but to actually say that I am the president's lawyer, I hope you recognize, Mr. Terwilliger, as someone who cares about the Department of Justice, that undermines the entire law enforcement system more than anything that anyone else prior to January of this year has ever done. And I yield back.